Programang ito ay rated SPG. Striktong patnubay at gabay ng magulang ang kailangan. Maaaring may masiselang tema, lengguwahe, karahasan, sexual, horror o droga na hindi angkop sa mga bata.
Warning. The following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Thought Catalog Number 5. The McStay Family. In 2010, in Fallbrook, California, the McStay family, including Joseph McStay, his wife Summer, and their 2 children, was brutally murdered. The 4 then moved by the killer and buried in a shallow grave in the desert, but their remains weren't found until 2013. For 3 years, they simply believed to have disappeared. Forensic evidence showed that all had been beaten to death with a sledgehammer, which was found near the family's remains. Joseph McStay suffered 4 blows to the head, and the family's youngest child, only 4 years old, suffered 7. Investigators also believe that the family was tortured prior to being killed. Charles Merritt, McStay's former business partner, has been charged with the family's murder. James Bulger. In 1993, England, 2-year-old James Bulger was abducted by 2 10-year-olds at the mall while his mother was distracted. After taking him from the mall, the 2 boys took Bulger on a 2.5-mile walk. At one point, they picked Bulger up and dropped him on his head, which caused him to have a bump on his head, and according to bystanders' cry. The 2 then took him up in an embankment and onto a set of railroad tracks, where they began torturing him. According to Wikipedia, at trial it was established at his location one of the boys threw blue Humbrol modeling paint, which had they shoplifted earlier, into Bulger's left eye. They kicked and stamped him and threw bricks and stones at him. Batteries were placed in Bulger's mouth. Police believe some batteries may have been inserted into his anus, although none were found there. Finally, a 22-pound iron bar, described in court as a railway fishplate, was dropped on him. Bulger suffered 10 skull fractures as a result of the iron bar striking his head. Dr. Alan Williams, the case pathologist, stated that the Bulger suffered so many injuries, 42 in total, that none could isolate it as the fatal blow. Police suspected that there was a sexual element to the crime. Since Bulger's shoes, socks, trousers, and underpants had been removed, the pathologist's report read out in court stated that Bulger's foreskin had been forcibly retracted. Before they left him, the boys laid Bulger's across the railway tracks and weighted his head down with rubble, in the hope that a train would hit him and make his death appear to be an accident. After Bulger's killer left the scene, his body was cut in half by a train. Bulger's severe body was discovered 2 days later on February 14. Amora Bain Carson. Amora Bain Carson, the 13-month-old baby who was tortured to death by her mother's boyfriend during an excess regime. I'll tell the story by copying some of things from each of their appeals. Jessica Carson was the baby mother, and the boyfriend was Blaine William. Jessica Carson was sentenced to life, while Blaine William was sentenced to death. Warning: graphic content. Carson concluded that the child was likely Chucky or Pet Sematary horror movies when the boy dies and came back to life, all evil and stuff, because the child was biting Blaine to where it was drawing blood on his hand. After William returned to the child, he took a picture of her and gave it to Carson. One of the child's eyes was stretched and wrapped down. Carson heard horrible cries for the child as William was attempting the exorcism. During the hours involved, William had taken the child to a back bedroom in their small dwelling and wedged the door shut. The evidence would allow a jury to conclude that Carson was necessarily aware of what was happening to the child, because she admitted hearing the screams that accompanied such such torture, and because she saw the child's deformed head after some time had passed heard the sounds caused by the blows. They found blood spatter stains consistent with blunt force trauma near the south bedroom. Among the items collected from the south bedroom were blood-stained bedding and baby clothes, blood-stained baby diapers and wipes, a tube of astrolide lubricant, a pair of jeans with blood stains on the lap. DNA testing later showed that Amora's blood was on these items. As a result, conducted by Milam, Amora suffered innumerable injuries that led to her death. Forensic evidence showed the child was beaten so severely that a multitude of fractures to her skull connected to each is like a jigsaw puzzle, and her brain was torn and severely damaged. An arm and leg had a spiral fracture indicating that they were twisted in two. Her torso was either struck by a blunt object or squeezed until the ribs and sternum broke, and her body, neck, chest, abdomen, buttocks, both elbows and both forearms, both feet, right arm, left shoulder, left upper arm, and left hand, right thigh, and left knee was riddled with no less than 24 distinct bite marks. Her head and face were scraped and bruised, that all the discrete injuries combined into one giant injury. Her liver was torn, and her vaginal and anal orifices were torn that the vagina and rectum were actually connected. An injury the forensic examiner had never seen before. The underside of her tongue was lacerated from blunt force trauma. She was also strangled. Because of all injuries she sustained, it was not possible to determine which of one was the final injury, and no specific singular cause of death was determinable. Forensic testimony reflected that several of the injuries standing alone would have been fatal. Police were called several hours later. When they arrived, the child was entirely stiff and in rigor. On December 13th, appellant's sister Teresa went to see appellant in jail. That night, she told her aunt that she was needing to find a way to get back out of the trailer in Tatum because Blaine had told her she needed to go out there to the trailer to get some evidence out from the underneath it. The aunt called Sergeant Rogers and told her that she needed to get out of the trailer immediately, that Teresa was wanting to go out there to get some evidence out from the underneath the trailer. Sergeant Rogers immediately obtained a search warrant, crawled under the trailer, and discovered a pipe wrench inside a clear plastic bag. The pipe wrench had been shoved down a hole in the floor of the master bedroom. Forensic analysis revealed components of astrolide on the pipe wrench, the diaper Amora had been wearing, and the diaper and wipes collected from south bedroom. Werner Herzog did an episode on Death Row about Blaine Milliam, and the full episode is on YouTube. It has security footage from the pawn shop where they were supposedly pawning a chainsaw to get money for an exorcism after Amora was already dead, and a gas station. The 911 call, crime scene photos not of Amora's body, of course, just the trailer, and interviews with pretty much everyone involved except Jessica Carson. It doesn't make it any easier, but this is the case raises a lot of questions, and searching online for this kind of cases can take you horrible places that use Amora for shock value or misrepresent autopsy photos of other unfortunate victims as her. No post-mortem photos of Amora had been released, and her autopsy was sealed, especially since Amora's case had been in the mainstream media very much due to the graphic nature of her death. With Herzog, you're getting quality information on the case coming straight from these involved. Bonus: 36 locals shares the most horrific true crimes that happened in their hometowns. Stacy Castor poisoned her husband and then poisoned her daughter on the daughter's first day of college. She wrote a fake suicide note for her daughter saying that she had killed her father, was committing suicide because of the guilt. The daughter almost died but recovered from the poison and testified against her mother. They also found out she had poisoned her first husband. When I was in the 3rd grade, I saw a kid get into the police car when I was in a chess club. Turns out his father murdered his younger twin sister by stabbing them to death. Apparently, he told them to play hide and seek and murdered them when he found them. When he finally returned to school, he got bullied by the shitbag kids at our school, making fun of his dead sister. He was placed in a custody on his aunt, who later committed suicide, and he was left in the care of the state after that. That boy's life was horrible. Around 3 years ago, my friend's father went berserk and killed my friend, his younger brother, and his mother, and then proceeded to hang himself. I remember talking to him the week before about a project we had in a lit class. His extended family took the project because it was the last thing he worked on before the incident. I had grief counselors talk to me for every class I had with him, which was almost all of them. Our school still has a tree and a memorial dedicated to him. Probably David Meyerhofer's murders. Among other things, he snatched a 7-year-old girl out of her tent while her family was camping, molested her, and then strangled her to death. They caught him because he called her mother to taunt her a year later. Neighbors that live across the road from were having domestic issues. The wife brings over a box of stuff for us to stash because she is afraid she will still burn it. We stash it for her, no problem. A week later, she is missing. The following week, they found her dead, stuffed in a box in his storage unit. He got life. We gave the box of stuff to her daughter.